I'm truly grateful to all of you for being here with us through these 21 sessions, this journey we're sharing to deepen our inner awareness. I also want to express gratitude to your loved ones who invited or encouraged you to be here so we could spend these 21 days together in connection and growth. This is an online course, but the inner work journey we've been offering has been flourishing for more than 11 years now. I'm deeply thankful to the teachers who, during the COVID period, had the vision and desire to create an online space for learning and support. Since then, this class has become the 36th to take place, each one filled with presence and intention. Thank you for showing up and being a part of it. For this course, I have had the joy of connecting with nearly every one of you throughout the whole journey. This path is also designed to support those who wish to become inner coaching specialists, so I'm looking forward to continuing this walk with you in the journey ahead. To help us connect and align, I'd like to give this journey a name. One we'll carry with us each day we are together. The journey of inner awareness. Because it's a journey, it calls for our ongoing presence. Day 1 flows into day 2 into day 3, and so on. Each day builds on the last until we complete the path together. And this journey takes place within a program we call Awaken to Your Inner World, Cultivate Peace and Joy. So what will we actually receive during these 21 sessions? What value will this bring into our lives? I'll be sharing more deeply with you in a moment so we can all fully grasp the meaning and spirit of this program. In this course, all I ask of you is to show up with a relaxed and open heart. That's all. Let me ask you something. If I told you that even if you fell asleep during class, transformation could still happen, would you believe me? What if you truly could be transformed, even while sleeping? If you've joined this program before, you probably understand what I mean. This is a space for the most effortless kind of learning. Nothing is forced. Some of you may have been invited by loved ones. Some may have even been encouraged or paid to attend. And yes, a few may have been gently pushed to join. But now that you're here, just allow yourself to be present in whatever way feels right. If you're able to take notes, great. If not, simply listen. And if you happen to fall asleep, just let it play in the background. Your heart will still receive what it needs. When we approach this journey with ease and openness, the learning becomes so much more powerful. I often tell the class, even in sleep, transformation is possible. That's not just an idea. It's something I've witnessed again and again over the past 11 years. There were times when young children, 5, 6, 7 years old, would come into the space. They wouldn't follow the class. They'd be playing, napping, doing their own thing. But afterward, they could recall everything, and they experienced profound shifts. That's why I believe this journey isn't only for adults. It's for everyone, young or old, no matter your background or experience. It's for anyone willing to open themselves to understanding the inner world. So for this 21-session journey, I invite you to relax into it. This is what I call joyful learning. Learning that you enjoy, not endure. Some of you may not be used to this style. You hear 21 sessions and think, that's a long time. But in truth, the time passes quickly, so quickly that in the blink of an eye, the journey is over. This program is designed for everyone. Whatever your age, whatever your path, if you enter with an open heart, you'll discover growth. And as we begin, I invite you to meet this journey as if it's speaking just to you. The sages and great minds throughout history have pointed out that all human knowledge can be divided into 3 major realms. The first is worldview, our understanding of the material world around us. The second is cosmology, our relationship with the universe, the unseen, the sacred. And the third is human philosophy, our way of being, our ethics, and our view of life itself. As we grow and learn, most of our education, both from school and society, focuses on shaping our worldview. With the rise of modern science, this area continues to expand, and naturally, we tend to be drawn toward learning more and more about the external world. Religious and spiritual traditions, on the other hand, offer us insights into the cosmos, our place within the vast universe, our connection to something greater. And then there is human philosophy, which comes from lived experience. It gives us the foundation for values, moral principles, and a deeper understanding of life. This is where we find the wisdom that grounds our everyday choices and relationships. So what does this mean for us in the journey of inner awareness? It means we're really learning the wisdom of human philosophy. That means our discussions will center around life itself, how we experience it, relate to it, and grow through it. If questions arise related to human values, relationships, emotions, or the deeper meaning of life, we'll explore them together through conversation and reflection. However, topics related to scientific worldview or spiritual cosmology aren't the focus of this particular journey, so those will not be part of our shared discussion space. This is, at its heart, a path to understanding ourselves. When we truly engage with the program, when we reflect deeply and share openly, something begins to open within. Bit by bit, we gain clearer insight into one essential dimension of life, our inner world. And through this, we begin to see life itself differently. To begin the journey, I'd like to invite you into a simple visual metaphor. Could I ask you to help me draw a small boat? Please take a moment to sketch it, any way you like. Just a simple image. You can write the word boat inside so we know what it represents. That will be enough. Let's imagine we're on a boat and we hope to travel from point A to point B. Now, depending on the current, one of two things can happen. The current flows with the direction of the boat. The current flows against it. If the current is flowing with us and we have someone steering the boat or even an engine, then the journey is easy. The boat will glide forward quickly and effortlessly. In fact, even if we stop rowing or turn off the motor, the boat may still continue on toward point B, carried by the current. But what if the current flows against us? If we have no one steering and no engine, the boat won't reach its destination. It may drift aimlessly or even be pushed back. If we do have someone steering and some engine power, we might still make it, but it will require real effort and persistence. Now, when the sages shared this metaphor with me, they pointed out something profound. In the lives of most people, perhaps 90 out of every 100, maybe even 99, the journey toward what we desire is filled with effort, struggle, and hardship. And the moment we stop striving, stop growing, stop reaching forward, our lives begin to lose momentum. So this raises an important question. Are we rowing our boats against the current of life? Because if we are, then no wonder it feels like a struggle. We must constantly steer, row, push just to move forward, but the moment we let go, we drift backward. The sages revealed that in this metaphor, the current itself represents the laws and principles of life, the unseen rules that shape our reality. If we live in harmony with these principles, if we flow with the current, then life becomes easier. Our efforts multiply, our journey feels supported, not resisted. That's why we've created the journey of inner awareness. It exists to help each of us understand the laws and principles that quietly guide human life, so we can begin to move with them, not against them. This is the first symbol I want to share with you. A boat, a current, a life lived in harmony with the principles of existence. And so, we begin this 21-day journey with one clear intention: transformation. We'll use this image and the laws behind it to support your path, a path of transformation within your consciousness. You could say this is a journey of inner transformation, a return to living in flow with life itself. This journey was designed with a deep recognition. Every one of us carries within and around us a kind of cocoon. This cocoon, or shell, surrounds us in layers. For most people, it's made up of about 6 layers, subtle but powerful barriers. These are not physical walls, but barriers of perception, limitations in how we see ourselves and the world. In inner work, we call them self-limiting beliefs or perceptual blocks. One common form of this is diminishing oneself, which leads to limiting self-awareness. The quiet belief that we are just ordinary, or worse, that we are not capable of great things. This is one of the most common limitations. We silently decide what we cannot do, long before we've even tried. In the language of the inner world, we would say that this person is held back by limited self-awareness, and almost all of us carry some version of this. Another common layer of the cocoon is the fear of failure. Because of this fear, we hold back, we hesitate, we avoid risk, we don't try. Fear takes the wheel, and we stay stuck. And then there's the fear of criticism or judgment, a barrier that many carry, often deeply tied to loved ones. We worry about what our partners will say, what our families will think, what society will assume. This fear, too, holds us back from stepping into our own growth. Another is the sense that we lack the right conditions, not enough resources, support, or readiness to take action, so we wait, we delay, we tell ourselves, "I'm not ready yet." Then there's the feeling of lacking understanding, the sense that we don't know enough, that we're not informed enough to begin, and perhaps most silently of all, the absence of a vision for the future. When we don't know where we're going, our actions lose direction and we shrink back. These 6 barriers form the cocoon that holds us in place. They keep us from taking that next step. They block our transformation. And to truly change, to transform, we must break free from the inside out. Let me share a simple metaphor. A chicken egg, when cracked by force from the outside, becomes food. But when life breaks through from the inside, it becomes a living being. In the same way, transformation born from external pressure, suffering, loss, crisis may push us forward, but only temporarily. If pain isn't enough to make us change, greater pain may follow. And if that still doesn't work, life may bring suffering so deep, we are left with no choice. And if even that doesn't awaken us, then loss may arrive, forcing transformation through grief or collapse. But the sages teach us a different path, transform not because of suffering, but because of love. Because you love yourself enough to grow. Because you long to expand. Because you wish to live more fully. This is the foundation of our 21-day journey, a path that invites you to awaken from within, to release the limitations of self-awareness and rise beyond them. Like a rocket preparing to launch, imagine yourself held down by 6 heavy chains. The engine is running, you're ready, and the moment those 6 chains are released, you soar freely. Many people spend years trying to change their lives, using countless strategies, but the great teachers remind us, the fastest path to transformation is to dissolve the inner limits we've placed on ourselves. Once these 6 limitations are lifted, your growth becomes limitless. Just imagine what happens when you see your future clearly, when you know what you want and believe you can create it, when you stop fearing failure, criticism, and limitation, when you rise above your self-doubt, you become unstoppable. That's why this program exists. It was created with the guidance of wise mentors and life-changing teachers to help us walk a path of inner transformation, where we live by the laws of growth, awareness, and self-liberation. We don't need to wait for pain or loss to force us to change. We can grow because we choose to love. Write this down if it speaks to you. Let us be transformed, not by suffering, but by love. When a person feels truly loved by a teacher, a friend, a family member, or even by life itself, that love can awaken profound change. That's how this journey begins. It was love that moved me to create this space. Love from my teachers, love from those who walked beside me. And it may be the love of your family or a friend that brought you here. Now let it be your own love for yourself that fuels this transformation. You don't need to wait for heartbreak. You don't need to suffer to grow. Let this be your moment, rooted in compassion, in clarity, and in freedom. I am deeply grateful you are here. Shall we begin? Let's give ourselves a round of applause as we step together into this journey of deep inner awareness. Let's begin with one of the quiet principles that will walk with us throughout this journey. It's called the principle of light. To begin, I'd like to invite you to draw a simple shape. You can use a square or a rectangle, whatever is easiest. Inside that shape, write the words dark room. This will represent something important we'll return to. Now, I'll often use visual metaphors like this as we go along, not just for clarity, but because some of our dear participants in this course are visually impaired. So I want to make sure that the journey we share is one that everyone can walk together equally and fully. So let's stay with the image of this dark room. We all know that light and darkness are opposites. They cannot exist in the same space. Where there is light, darkness disappears. Where there is darkness, it means light hasn't yet arrived. They operate under what we call the principle of duality, the natural law that says 2 opposing forces always exist in relation, but one always gives way to the other. Now imagine you're standing in this dark room and you wish for it to be bright. You might think, let me remove the darkness. Maybe if I take it all out, it will become light. But we know that's not how it works. You don't need to fight the dark. You simply bring in the light, and the darkness fades. That's it. As soon as light enters, darkness dissolves, effortlessly, without resistance. Even a 3-year-old child understands this. When they walk into a dark room, they don't panic. They reach for the light switch. My own little one, just 14 months old, already knows how to crawl to the wall and flip it on when the room feels too dark. It's instinctual. That's the beauty of the principle of light. You don't need to fix the dark. You don't need to remove the pain, the confusion, the fear. You just need to bring in something brighter. And yet, we must ask ourselves, do we live this way inside ourselves? In our emotional life, in our inner world, do we apply this same principle? When we feel lost or stuck or full of fear, do we shine light inward or do we try to fight the dark? Let's turn now to one of the most essential understandings in this journey. I'd like to invite you to draw one more image, something simple but deeply symbolic. Please sketch a house. It can be square or rectangular, whatever feels natural. Now, at the very base of the house, write the words inner self. This is the foundation. On the left pillar, write health. On the right pillar, write relationships. And finally, on both sides of the roof, write the word finance. When we look closely at the human experience, its challenges, its beauty, its complexity, it all comes down to these 4 essential dimensions: inner self, health, relationships, and finances. These are the pillars and foundations of life. And the wise ones say, if you can learn to master these 4, you can master your life. And yet, how few people pursue mastery in this way? Most of us are taught to chase success or to gain control over others or external circumstances, but we are rarely encouraged to master the core pillars of our own existence. This house is your life. Each pillar influences the others. Every part of the house supports or destabilizes the whole. So what does this look like in real life? Let me share something personal, because this idea of the house, of mastering these 4 dimensions, it isn't just theory to me. It began shaping my life long before I even had words for it. And yet, years later, when I finally heard it spoken aloud, it struck me so deeply. Even as a child, I longed not to control others, but to take full responsibility for my own life. In 3rd grade, after failing that school year, my mother scolded and punished me. But something inside me stirred, a quiet resolve to steer my own course. I told her, from now on, I'll take responsibility for my studies. Please don't interfere anymore. She agreed on one condition. Just bring home a certificate of achievement each year. If you do that, I won't interfere, she said. And from that day on, I did. What I didn't know then, but understand now, is that I was already seeking something deeper. To live a life I could truly call my own. Later, I would learn from wise teachers that the way to live such a life is to master these 4 pillars. To strengthen the inner self, to care for the body, to cultivate meaningful relationships, and to align our finances with purpose and integrity. Each of these pillars holds its own depth. Health includes how we care for our bodies, and yes, even how we care for our appearance. Relationships include friendships, community, and the sacred bonds of marriage and family. And when we speak of finances, we mean not just money, but how we earn, invest, and steward our resources with clarity and heart. The wise ones also taught this. Many of the challenges we face don't begin out there. They begin in here, in the unrest of the inner self. Can we agree, when our inner world is unsettled, when we're carrying anger, blame, or sorrow, it affects our relationships? Can we agree that when resentment lingers within us, it impacts our health too? The body absorbs the stress, it holds the tension. And can we agree that when fear or insecurity fills the heart, even our financial decisions become clouded, driven more by emotion than clarity? But this isn't a one-way relationship. The pillars don't just arise from the inner self in one direction. They interact, influence, and inform one another in every direction. Let's take health as our starting point. When our health is weak, it doesn't just affect the body, it affects the spirit. An unwell body makes it hard to rest, hard to be still, hard to feel peace. Even our thoughts become heavier. An anxious heart often lives inside a fatigued frame, and health deeply shapes our relationships. When we're full of energy, we can love more freely. We can play with our children, be present with our partners, and show up for our friends. But when strength is lacking, even simple acts of care can feel beyond reach. Some parents want nothing more than to play with their kids, but without health, even love feels limited. So yes, health supports our capacity to love. And of course, health has a profound impact on finances. With good health and time, most people can find ways to work, create, and build. But without health, earning becomes difficult. We feel the weight of limitation. Now, let's begin again from the pillar of relationships. Relationships shape the inner self. Joy and sorrow both arrive through human connection. A word of love can bring healing. A harsh judgment can linger for years. And relationships affect health. Social ties have been shown, not just anecdotally, but in decades-long studies, to be among the greatest predictors of long-term well-being. People who build strong, loving relationships in youth tend to experience greater health and happiness later in life. In fact, the pain of a broken relationship in old age can hurt more than any physical wound. Loneliness isn't just emotional, it's physical. The body responds to the absence of connection. Relationships also influence finances. Every opportunity we've received likely came through another person, through trust, goodwill, or shared connection. When relationships are built on care and authenticity, they open doors. Now let's consider finance. Finances too shape relationships. With adequate resources, we can show up more fully, providing for those we love, offering comfort, supporting dreams. But this only holds true when money is aligned with love, not control, fear, or ego. When finances are stable, we can create healthier environments, access medical care, and live in ways that support well-being. Even the inner self finds more peace when financial pressures ease. Many of us felt this during the COVID years. Those with stable finances were able to maintain more calm, more steadiness in the storm. Can we see now? Each pillar touches the others. The inner self, health, relationships, finance, they're not isolated, they're interwoven. And when even one begins to fall, the whole house feels its weight. And that's why this wisdom matters. When we understand this interconnection, we stop chasing quick fixes. Instead, we tend to the foundation. We strengthen each pillar with care, and slowly, steadily, life comes back into balance. This is not abstract, it's deeply personal. And when we begin to live this way, when we stop compartmentalizing life and begin to honor the wholeness of who we are, a deeper kind of wisdom begins to grow. But even then, a subtle habit often remains. Even after we've seen the house clearly, understood the pillars, felt the truth of their connection, we still reach for an old pattern. We fix, we push, we scramble to solve what's broken, and over time, without realizing it, solving problems becomes a way of life. That's why some people spend their whole lives solving problems and yet never feel free, because they're pulling at the dark instead of bringing in the light. But let's pause for a moment and look more closely. When something difficult arises in life, what do we usually do? We try to fix it. We analyze, we push, we strive. We treat the hardship like a problem to be solved, something to wrestle with until it disappears. But what if that very approach is what keeps us stuck? What if the more we try to fight the dark, the longer it lingers? Because light and dark are not equal forces. Darkness is only the absence of light, and the moment light enters, the dark dissolves. We all know that in a dark room, we don't need to remove the darkness. We simply turn on the light. But in life, we often forget this. When emotional pain appears, or relationships become strained, or finances tighten, we pour our energy into fighting the shadow, trying to make it go away. But suffering is not a mistake to fix. It's a space where light has not yet arrived. And if that's true, then healing doesn't come by force. It comes by illumination. The sages teach what we call problems are often invitations, not to react harder, but to see more clearly. Not to fight what is, but to bring presence into what is missing. So rather than spending our lives chasing shadows, what if we became lamps? But what does it actually mean to become a lamp? It's not just a poetic idea. It's a path, a way of being, moment by moment, day by day. Because light isn't something we wait for. It's something we choose to grow. And to grow it, we need more than inspiration. We need structure. We need a way to live it. Now we turn to a timeless symbol, simple enough to draw, deep enough to guide your life. So now, how do we live it? How do we bring this light, not just into our thoughts, but into our everyday actions? The sages gave us a symbol, a simple image passed through generations, one worth carrying for life. Now please draw another house, slightly larger than the one earlier. Something new is about to emerge within it. At the base of the house, write inner self. On the left pillar, write health. On the right pillar, write relationships. And across the top, write finance. Inside the house, at the center, draw a hexagon, a six-sided shape, then divide it into 7 parts like petals opening from a center. Inside each section, write one of these words: wisdom, inner state; character, virtue; competence, physical well-being; material abundance. Each one is a form of wealth, and each one is a lamp we can light. So instead of spending our lives fixing problems, trying to fix the inner self, fix our health, fix our relationships, fix our finances, we light the lamps, we cultivate wisdom, we nurture our inner state, we grow in character, we embody virtue, we develop competence, we care for our physical health, we steward our material wealth. And as the light within the hexagon begins to shine brighter, the shadows in the house begin to fade. Not because we fought them, but because we grew the light. So let us remember, instead of solving problems, we build holistic wealth. This is the shift. This is the way of light. So if the question is no longer, how do we solve our problems? Then maybe the better question is, what kind of wealth are we here to build? But before we go further, let's clarify something many people misunderstand. What does it really mean to be wealthy? Most would say it means having money, property, assets, financial freedom. And in one sense, that's true. Wealth can be material, tangible things we can see, count, and measure. In daily life, we tend to define wealth as money and possessions. Anything with physical form and measurable value, this is what we call tangible wealth. And in society's view, that definition is valid, but also incomplete. Let me ask you, what if someone has all the money in the world, but their body is weak, always tired, constantly in pain? Can they truly enjoy their wealth? That's why people say, without health, riches lose meaning. So now we begin to see physical health is a kind of wealth too. When your body feels strong, when you can breathe deeply and move freely, you feel alive. Joy becomes easier. Even simple things like playing with your kids or walking in the sun feel like gifts. So maybe real wealth includes both material wealth and physical health. But let's keep going. Have you ever met someone who inherited money but didn't know how to manage it? Over time, it slips away. Why? Because they lack the skills, the mindset, the inner strength to adapt, create, and build. So we realize competence is also wealth. It's your capacity, your inner tools. And here's something wise parents often say. If our children are stronger than us, they won't need the money we leave behind. But if they're weaker, then the money won't help anyway. There's deep truth in that, isn't there? So now we've named 3. Material wealth, physical health, competence. But let me ask you this. What happens when someone is wealthy, healthy, and talented, but they use it all just for themselves, or worse, to control or harm others? That doesn't feel like real wealth, does it? Because wealth without heart becomes dangerous. True wealth isn't just about what you have, it's about what you serve. When your success lifts others up, when your resources support life and create goodness, wealth becomes something far more meaningful. And over time, people began to see the ones we truly admire aren't always the richest, but the ones who live with kindness, integrity, wisdom, humility, and trust. Because when wealth is guided by noble virtues, it doesn't just build value, it becomes a force for good. That's why we need to be rich in noble virtue to be truly wealthy. However, even noble virtue isn't enough. Have you ever noticed some people rise to the top, admired, respected, yet they walk alone? They have everything, but no one to share it with. People look up to them, but no one really wants to be close. There's something about them that feels closed off, unreachable. You feel like you have to perform around them, like you can't just be yourself. That's why we need this next kind of wealth, character. Character is what keeps people close. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real. It's the quiet strength that says, you can rest here, you can be yourself. And people feel that, not with their minds, but with their hearts. True wealth isn't just measured by who follows you, but by who stays beside you when you have nothing to prove. So now we've gone deeper than society's usual idea of success. But that's not the whole picture yet. Have you ever met someone who has it all, money, health, respect, but they're still restless inside, no peace, no joy, no loving acceptance, no deep appreciation for the gift of life? That's because something essential is missing, inner state. It's the quiet feeling of being at ease in your own heart, the ability to breathe deeply, to soften, to trust, to feel truly alive and okay with life as it is. Without that foundation, no amount of success will ever feel like enough. But when your heart is steady, open, and grateful, you are already rich. That's why inner state is part of true wealth. And finally, we arrive at the deepest form of wealth, wisdom. Because where do all the others come from? From wisdom. It's the source behind it all. Your finances, your health, your skills, your virtue, your character, your inner state. They are all shaped by the clarity of your mind and the depth of your understanding. Without wisdom, we misuse what we have. We pour our energy into things that leave us empty. We chase what doesn't matter and drift away from what truly does. But with wisdom, we see clearly. We choose with care. We act with timing. We know when to speak, when to wait, when to give, and when to let go. Wisdom holds it all together. Without wisdom, no form of wealth is truly secure. But with it, every part of your life becomes truly rich. And speaking of that, you might have noticed something. I chose to name these 7 forms of wealth starting from the bottom, from material wealth, all the way up to wisdom. Why? Because that order shows us something powerful. Not just what we have, but what truly holds it all together. We start with what's visible, the thing we can touch, measure, and count. And we move upward toward what gives life its deepest meaning. We begin with what the world often chases first: money, comfort, success. But we rise toward what actually sustains it: wisdom, inner state, character, virtue. That's why I laid it out this way. It's like climbing the real ladder of wealth, from foundation to fulfillment, from what's outside to what endures within. So now let's go through the list again, one by one. Wisdom, inner state, character, virtue, competence, physical health. Material wealth, from the intangible to the tangible, from the unseen to the seen. These are the 7 forms of holistic wealth. These are the lamps we're here to light. And if someone had all 7, wouldn't you say they're truly wealthy? And just like we said earlier, if darkness represents life's problems, then these 7 are the light. Each one is a lamp, and the more we light them, the more the shadows fade. So let's remember together, instead of solving problems, we build holistic wealth. This is how we live aligned with the principle of light. So now we've seen the full spectrum, from the invisible roots to the visible fruits, from wisdom all the way down to material wealth. Some of these are intangible, like wisdom, inner state, character, and virtue. Others are tangible, like competence, physical health, and material wealth. But to truly understand what makes these forms of wealth so powerful, we need to look a little deeper into these 2 simple words: tangible and intangible. They might sound simple at first, but they hold the key to how we experience meaning in our lives. Because once we understand them clearly, we come back to the 7 lamps with fresh eyes. We begin to see why we need all 7, why we must light every lamp. Now, if you're following along, draw 2 arrows between the words intangible and tangible, flowing in both directions. Along the arrow from intangible to tangible, write the word materialize. And along the arrow from tangible to intangible, write spiritualize, because that's what we're exploring next. How the invisible becomes visible, and how the visible can be elevated beyond the physical. Have you ever held on to something, a keepsake, a small object for years? Something that, if sold, wouldn't be worth much at all? And yet, you'd never give it away. Why? Because it holds memory, emotion, meaning. It may be just a physical object, but it's been infused with something deeper, so much so that to you it's priceless. Can you relate to that? This is how the tangible is transformed by the intangible. An object becomes more than what it is because of what it carries. You could say the tangible has been spiritualized. It holds invisible value, felt but unseen. You've already done this. If you've ever held on to something because it meant something to you, not because it was expensive, you've given it invisible value. And this happens all around us, even in business. Take a luxury handbag. The cost to make it is often just a small fraction of what it sells for. But add a famous brand, a story, a limited edition, and the price multiplies. Or even simple grocery items. Add organic farming, traceable sourcing, and care for the earth, suddenly it's worth more. Why? Because someone infused the physical thing with something intangible. Meaning, quality, trust, story. And that raised its value. And that is how the physical becomes sacred. But here's the part we forget. We've learned to increase the value of things. But when it comes to people, especially our children, we do the opposite. We raise them with care. We feed them well. We send them to good schools. We hope they grow strong and capable. But then society steps in and says, your worth is what you can produce, how much you earn, what you achieve. So our children begin trading their health and ability for money. And that becomes the measure of their value. And it's heartbreaking because after all the love, all the effort, the world says you're only worth what you do. And it's not just our children. We do this to ourselves too. We say, my ability determines my value. My strength determines what I deserve. My worth is what I can prove. But that mindset makes us small. It cuts us off from our deeper value because true worth isn't found in performance. It's not only in what's visible. There's something more. Our wisdom, our inner state, our character, our virtue. And the more we grow in these, the more our value becomes unmistakable, not only to ourselves, but to those around us. When we truly live this way, when we grow in wisdom, in inner state, in character and virtue, something shifts. Our value becomes visible in the eyes of others. I still remember the moment this insight was passed on to me. It touched me so deeply. From that day forward, I began my own journey. A journey of transforming from within, of building intangible wealth in my own life. That journey has now lasted over 10 years, and it's still unfolding. And here's the beautiful part. The deeper the transformation became, the more natural it felt to share it with others. That's why we created this program. Not just to teach you ideas, but to walk with you and to support you in lighting your own inner lamps. This 21-day journey isn't something you simply sign up for. It's not free and it's not casual. Everyone here has been intentionally welcomed into this space, not to attend a course, but to walk a path of inner transformation. There's no fixed tuition. But that doesn't mean it's without value. Instead, you're invited to contribute from the heart as an act of gratitude and a way to pay it forward for those who will walk this path after you. Because what we're building here is not just for ourselves. It's for a future that begins with awareness and growth through generosity. And yes, because when we receive, we give. When we grow, we pass it on. This is how the light is kept alive. And what is the light we're growing? For these 21 sessions, we'll focus on two of the most essential lamps: wisdom and inner state. Because when these two are strong, everything else begins to align. After that, we'll continue with 7 focused gatherings to grow in character, virtue, competence. We'll also explore timeless teachings like the 7 treasures of giving and a deeper understanding of human nature. This is not about collecting knowledge. It's about embodying transformation. So if you ask, what does this journey require of me? The answer is simple: presence, openness, and the courage to light the lamp. Because even if darkness has lasted 1,000 years, when light arrives, darkness begins to fade. If resentment has taken root, a precitude can dissolve it. If anger has built up, unconditional acceptance can soften it. If sorrow has lingered, peace and joy can gently lift it away. That is the power of the lamps. By the way, if you're wondering about the word appreciatude, yes, it's a new word. It blends appreciation and gratitude into one, because we need a word big enough to hold both. That's what appreciatude is for. So let this be your invitation. A single journey of learning, a lifetime of transformation. Write it down if it speaks to you, because this is not just another program. This is the beginning of a true shift. And once the lamp of wisdom and the lamp of inner state are lit, you will feel it. You will see yourself differently, and others will see you differently too. That's when you'll know your inner wealth has become real. Now we arrive at the question most people never ask, yet it changes everything. What does it mean to make the invisible real? Think about happiness. Is it something you can hold? Of course not. It's invisible, yet undeniably real. So is peace, so is love, so is appreciatude, loving acceptance, and humility. You can't weigh them. You can't place them on a shelf. But you can feel them, and you can recognize them when someone truly lives them. Some people radiate peace. Some carry love in the way they speak, the way they move. But here's the challenge. Even when we feel these things inside, we often struggle to pass them on. How do you teach your child to be joyful? How do you pass on inner peace? How do you help someone awaken appreciatude within themselves? That's the mystery of the intangible. It's there, but not always visible. And when we can't see something, we may not value it or even notice it slipping away. Let me give you a simple example. In traditional Eastern medicine, there are healers who can detect illness, not through machines or lab tests, but through subtle signs. They may gently feel your pulse, observe the tone of your skin, notice the look in your eyes, the way you breathe, or how you carry your body. And just from those signs, they can sense what's off inside. Even before asking a single question, To most of us, those signals seem invisible. We wouldn't notice them. But to someone trained in this kind of perception, those signs are clear, obvious. And the more experience they have, the more accurate their insight becomes. That's the power of refined awareness. What's unseen to most becomes seen. And this isn't just true in health, it's true in business too. There are people who walk into a room and instantly sense opportunity where others see nothing at all. To most, it's invisible. But to a seasoned entrepreneur, someone who's developed their inner perception, it's easy to see. Where one person sees risk, another sees reward. Where most see noise, they hear signals. Why? Because they've learned to sense value even before it's fully formed. And they act on it before the world even knows it exists. This is the key. Tangibility isn't just what we can touch. It's also what we can feel, sense, and perceive. So let me ask you, how do we take things like joy, wisdom, compassion, humility, things we can't hold in our hands, and make them real? How do we bring them into our lives? Not just as ideas, but as qualities we embody. That is what it means to materialize the intangible. And just like a healer can read the body, you can learn to read your inner world. It's like performing a gentle diagnosis of the soul, to ask yourself, where is my wisdom today? How calm is my inner state? What shape is my character in? And once you can see these qualities clearly, you can nurture them, you can live them, you can become them. And as for how to do it, that's what this journey is for. I'll walk with you step by step, because once something becomes visible, you gain the power to choose. You can say, yes, I want this kind of peace. Yes, I choose this kind of compassion. And when you do, something beautiful happens. The old patterns begin to fade. The old self begins to dissolve. That's when transformation becomes real. And that is the essence of this path, to materialize the intangible, so we can let go of what no longer serves and consciously live what we now carry. Many people, teachers, seekers, even experts, have described this journey with one powerful phrase. It's like a grand surgery of the inner self, not of the body, but of the inner world, of our thoughts, our emotions, our habits, our ego. And while it may sound abstract, it's not. In fact, it's deeply practical, even scientific. This is not a program for quick fixes. Let me be clear. If you're hoping I'll solve your personal problems in your marriage, your health, your finances, I won't. That's not what I'm here to do. But what I can offer you is light. I can help you see what kind of light to bring in so that the darkness begins to fade. For example, if you carry resentment, I won't give you a method to get rid of it, but I will help you grow appreciatude. And once that light enters, resentment dissolves on its own. If you struggle with arrogance or low self-worth, I won't try to remove either, but I'll help you cultivate humility, because true humility brings balance. It quiets the need to prove and heals the fear of not being enough. And when humility arises, balance returns. If your heart is heavy with sorrow, I won't fight it, but I will help you grow peace within. And when peace enters, the heaviness begins to lift, because that is the principle of light. Light doesn't argue with darkness. It replaces it. And here's the beautiful truth. You don't need to invent it. You already carry the light within you. This path simply shows you how to turn it on. This path we're walking together is about two profound shifts. On one hand, we spiritualize the material, infusing what's visible with deeper meaning and presence. On the other, we materialize the intangible, bringing peace, gratitude, humility, and other inner treasures into lived, embodied expression so they can be seen, felt, and shared. This is how we live the principle of light, not just as an idea, but as a compass for daily life and for the journey of a lifetime. So if you're standing at a crossroads uncertain of your next direction, or longing for something deeper to build your life upon, let holistic wealth become your foundation. If you're raising children, but don't yet have a full vision of who you want them to become, this path can guide you too. Let's take a moment to reflect on what this really means. When we speak of human life, we're not just talking about survival, but about growth, about the unfolding of who we are meant to become. Every aspect of life, our mind, our body, our relationships, our spirit, all plays a role in that becoming. And the way we see life, our beliefs, our understanding, our sense of meaning, shapes how we grow. These aren't just ideas, they're the foundations of a life well lived. A life that doesn't just exist, but evolves. And if up until now, that path hasn't felt clear, let this be your invitation to begin. Let holistic wealth be your compass, and let the 7 forms of wealth be your map. Let's review them together, not just to remember, but to embed them into how we see, choose, and live. Wisdom, inner state, character, virtue, competence, physical health, and material wealth. This is a path for you, a path for your children, a path that leads toward a more whole, conscious future. Someone once asked me, Tuan, my child is sitting beside me while I listen to this. Is it okay for them to hear these teachings? My answer is absolutely yes. This is not only safe for children, it's nourishing. Let them hear these words. Let them grow up in the language of light so that you and your children can one day speak the same language of awareness. Now let's bring this closer to daily life. We've spoken about the principle of light, but how do we live it in the ordinary moments? Imagine this. You see your child running too fast and instinctively you say, "Don't run, you'll fall." That's common. It comes from love, from care. But the energy behind the words is fear. Now try this instead. Walk slowly. Stay safe, sweetheart. Same intention, but now the energy has shifted from fear to presence, from anxiety to peace. That is light-based language. And if we listen more closely, we may begin to notice how much of our everyday language is rooted in fear, pressure, or control. For example, if you don't study, you'll end up poor. But what we really mean is, I believe in you and your future. Watching you grow is a gift, my dear child. When we don't understand the principle of light, our words may carry shadows, even if our hearts mean well. But here's the beauty. As we grow in inner state and wisdom, our language begins to shift. Our presence softens. We stop reacting. We begin radiating. Our words begin to carry new energy. The energy of gratitude, of unconditional acceptance, of inner peace. And one day, you'll say something simple, and someone will pause and say, "You've changed." And they'll be right because you've lit the inner lamps. And when the lamps of wisdom and inner state are lit, light flows through everything, even your words. So let this be your quiet reminder. Every time you choose peace over anger, gratitude over blame, acceptance over control, you are living the principle of light. And as we said from the very beginning, instead of solving problems, we build holistic wealth. Please write that down one more time. Not because it sounds nice, but because it's the foundation of this path. This is the principle of light, and this is how we grow. Now, my dear friends, I'd like to offer you another principle, a key that supports growth across all dimensions of life. We call this the principle of inner activation. Unlike the scientific methods that stimulate the brain through technology or technique, this principle is rooted in lived experience, in the human journey, in the heart, in awareness. To begin, I invite you to write down 3 simple words: lesson, insight, realization. These are more than just concepts. They are milestones. For those who understand this principle, these 3 words will quietly accompany them for the rest of their lives. Let's explore each one. A lesson is something new, something you've never learned before. It feels fresh, unexpected, transformative in its novelty. If today you hear something you've never heard before, you've received a lesson. An insight is more than just something useful. It's a felt understanding, a truth that speaks to you, resonates deeply, and can be lived. It brings clarity. And because of that clarity, you can act on it. Not just once, but again and again. It becomes part of how you see, how you choose, how you live. A realization is different still. It's not just something you learn. It's something you've long wondered about, perhaps even struggled with, and suddenly there's clarity. The question is answered. The fog lifts. The inner click happens. That's realization. And together, lesson, insight, and realization. These are the pathways through which transformation becomes real. So why do we call this the principle of inner activation? In human life, we all encounter difficulties, challenges, struggles, setbacks, right? Let me ask you this. Have you ever faced the same kind of hardship more than once? Felt like life was repeating itself? Ever asked yourself, why does this keep happening? So before anything else, let's ask, why do these difficulties come in the first place? Wouldn't you agree that's worth understanding? The wise ones say, challenges arrive to help us grow. They bring lessons, call forth insight, and offer us a chance to awaken. They are not punishments. They are invitations to evolve. If we see life through the lens of positivity and light, we begin to understand. Each hardship contains a seed, and within that seed is a lesson, an insight, a realization, something that allows us to grow, to strengthen, to expand. That's why they come. And that's also why, if we pass through them without learning anything, without applying anything, without realizing anything, those struggles tend to repeat themselves, circling back until the lesson is received, the insight is applied, and the realization is awakened. And here's something worth remembering. Life is precious, and yes, it can be short. But must we wait for pain to wake us up? Must we stumble through storms just to find our strength? The answer, lovingly, is no. The masters have shared this with me. We do not need to suffer in order to evolve. If we're willing to learn with intention, to embrace each moment with presence, then hardship doesn't need to be our only teacher. In other words, you can grow through awareness, not adversity. You don't have to break in order to be reborn. You can choose to awaken gently, wisely, and in your own time. So what does this mean for us? It means we can begin collecting light every single day, not by waiting for life to test us, but by meeting life with openness and reflection. Every conversation, every quiet pause, every one of these 21 sessions is filled with opportunities to learn something new, to unlock an insight, to awaken a realization. And as you do, as you gather these moments of understanding, as you write down your lessons, insights, and realizations, you're gently rewiring your inner world. You're activating your potential through life itself. You're moving forward, not because you've fallen, but because you're ready. The more we engage life with awareness, through reflection, through learning, through mindful living, the more we begin to receive our lessons before hardship arrives. Each day that you pause to reflect, to truly learn something new, to apply an insight, to awaken a realization, you are planting seeds of light ahead of time. And when this becomes your way of life, when learning is constant, when awareness deepens, then adversity no longer needs to knock so loudly. Difficulties begin to soften, even disappear. And if challenges do come, they arrive not to break you, but to remind you of what you already know. And once that knowing is awakened, the challenge doesn't need to return. And yet, this truth, while powerful, isn't always easy to grasp right away. Sometimes it helps to see it in a more down-to-earth way. So let me offer you a simple metaphor. Imagine someone walking across a narrow bridge in the countryside. They slip and fall into deep water. If they don't know how to swim, it's a crisis. But if they do, they simply glide to shore. What changed? Not the situation, but the preparation. In the same way, if you nourish your inner self with lessons, insights, and realizations, then even when difficulties arise, you are not shaken. What might be a crisis for someone else becomes a passage of growth for you. Because when the inner world is prepared, life no longer needs to shout to be heard. You begin to glide through moments that once would have pulled you under. So as we conclude this chapter, let us remember, we do not grow because of pain. We grow because we are willing to see, to understand, to transform. Each day of this 21-day journey, take a few quiet moments. Ask yourself, the lesson that spoke to me today is, the insight I can carry into my life is, the realization, my aha moment I experienced was. Please write them down, and over time, you'll begin to notice life feels lighter, you feel stronger, and the world around you begins to shift too. Because when the inner world transforms, the outer world responds. Take this with you today. Let it settle, let it grow, and when you're ready, I'll meet you again on day 2.